All right, folks, welcome back in. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Rams mini camp, which is taking place in Maui. Before we do, just want to let you guys know you can follow me on all social media at JK Bogan if you want to stay up to date with what I'm doing. But also, if you're not watching, you're watching on Bleach Report right now. If you're not watching on YouTube, you can check out my YouTube channel. It's just Jake Ellenbogen, and I talk about the Rams all the time. So, look, there are three main topics we have to hit on. We're going to be talking about Alaric Jackson and what's going on there, what the Rams see, how things are going. We're going to be talking about Kyren Williams, whether a deal is in place or could be in place anytime soon. And we're going to talk about Jaylen Ramsey. And I guess we could talk a little bit about Darian Kendrick, since that, of course, is news. It did come up, and, I've addressed it, but we're kind of recapping what's going on right now in Maui. So before we get into that, right now, seems like there's some good stuff out there. A lot of players, their families are out there. Good vibes all around, just based on what I'm picking up on. And obviously you've had plenty of, great quotes from Devontae Adams and how much he just absolutely loves being a Ram, and he loves this fit, and it's great to watch, and it's actually extremely exciting when you think about the player he can be if he stays healthy and he's happy, right? So even when he's not happy. But looking into it, the Rams got some unfortunate news on Alaric Jackson. In case you missed it, of course, we did talk about it, but he's dealing with blood clots. Sean McVay did not provide a timetable, was talking about him saying, they're taking things day by day. Quote, you pray for him to be able to have a healthy, safe recovery. And we're really just taking it a day at a time with him. There's a lot of examples of people that have had situations like this, but they're all still so uniquely independent in their own right. And so we're gathering information, end quote. So keep in mind, Jackson did deal with this same situation in 2022. So that's really the scary nature of this, the scary part of this. There's no way to really know, based on what other people had in the past, it might have been the first time that they had blood clots. So it's scary. And obviously, we're hoping for the best when it comes to Alaric just as a person, because it goes far beyond football at this point. But he's their starting left tackle when he's healthy. The problem is it doesn't look like he's not. It looks like he's not going to be ready to go. It's why they signed DJ Humphries. They have a lot of experience with him, seeing him from afar when he was playing with the Cardinals. And they liked the idea of being proactive with a contingency plan. So totally agree with the signing. I agreed with it before the injury, or, before the medical issues came out. But for those of you wondering, Alaric Jackson did not make the trip with the team to Maui. So he is going to be working on this, and hopefully he can come back. I don't know anything as far as the medical is concerned. I don't know if he's going to take blood thinners. I don't know. I don't know if that's something he can even do at all, because if he wants to return the NFL, this season, I'm not really sure how that goes, but obviously keep him in your thoughts, keep him in your prayers. This is a really fun story. A guy that was undrafted has turned himself into one of the better young tackles in the sport. Unfortunately, is dealing with yet another blood clot in the leg. So that's something to keep in mind. Then in addition to that, McVay spoke on Kyren Williams and the extension. There wasn't another update here. And it's important to realize that it definitely takes two to tango in a contract negotiation. He's got one of the best agents in all of sports. Okay. Drew Rosenhaus is one of the upper class agents in not just football, but around sports. So behind the scenes right now, Williams and Rosenhaus, they're obviously working. Well, I don't think Williams has anything to do with it. I think he told Rosenhaus what he wants, and that's what he wants to get. So the extension talks are still underway. There's no big updates currently, but really McVay said that they're working closer to hopefully finding a conclusion to this. It really doesn't feel as though, it doesn't feel as though Kyren Williams is going to hold out. And I don't believe he is. So it's not really a need necessarily. And keep in mind, for the same reason that why the Rams moved on from Darion Kendrick and that contract only to bring him back on a cheaper deal. Well, Kyren Williams, because he was a Pro Bowler, he's going to be getting paid, over $5 million this year. So it's not your stereotypical 5th round contract where he's dying to get paid. And I think if that was the case, if we had more of a Brock Purdy situation where you're talking about a guy at the end of his contract, he's not getting paid much, whatever, then it'd be different. But the fact that he's a Pro Bowler, he's not getting paid just a 5th rounder, right? He's not getting paid a little bit over $1 million this year. He's getting paid a lot more than that because of the performance escalator. So that's something to keep in mind. McVay said it's really the same as the last media availability. There's been a lot of back and forth. There's been some proposals on both sides. He also said, quote, "We are getting closer to hopefully finding a conclusion in this. Now, until that's agreed upon from both sides, we're really in the same boat." But behind the scenes, I think there's been really good dialogue from Drew, of course, Drew Rosenhaus, and really good dialogue from Kyren and just his group overall. He's done everything in his power to show up, be that pro, that leader, everything that we've asked. And so we're trying to be able to solve that. And if we were able to land that, we'll be excited about that, but no different than really kind of when we spoke about it last week, end quote. So lot there from McVay basically saying that nothing has really changed. I think that was really kind of a long way of saying, and obviously some people will run with this as like, this is great news. It's a long way of saying nothing really has occurred. Nothing really has happened. It's just kind of the way it was last week. I saw some reports out there that inching closer. I would say no, they're not inching closer. I think they're about where they were before. I will say this though, it's a different ball game. If you try to compare Kyren Williams' situation to Ernest Jones' situation, Ernest Jones, completely different thing. We saw there was an effort to sign him at one point or another. At least there was interest. The Rams then slowly pushed back a little bit. They went back, they pulled back, and you didn't see the interest that you saw with, say, Kyren. Kyren, there's definitely interest. They want Kyren Williams back. The question is, are they going to make it worth each other, for both sides? And that's really what it comes down to. When you see a player leave because of this, they're not leaving necessarily because they don't want to be a part of this organization anymore. Sometimes teams just can't come to a deal. And unfortunately, it's a tough pill to swallow, and it's definitely a big hump to get over. When you have a team that you spent 4 years of your career with, they drafted you and told you how great you were for those 4 years, then you get into contract negotiations and they're telling you why you deserve less. That is a hard thing, and really that's just tough to kind of navigate. And then on the Rams side of things, it's also tough because, again, I always say this and I make this clear to people. It's not that they're a cheap organization. Understand this. They're not cheap. This is an organization that is owned by Stan Kroenke. Kroenke is willing to shell out any bit of money to win a Super Bowl. He lets the professionals deal with this. The Rams don't trade anybody away because Stan Kroenke doesn't want to pay them. Now, that may have happened with the Raiders and Khalil Mack, and that may have happened in different locations, but I'm here to tell you right now, Chargers, good example. I'm here to tell you right now that the Rams aren't a cheap organization. They're not trying to skimp on paying these guys guaranteed money. What they're trying to do is fit everybody under the cap that they want to fit. They didn't get rid of Cooper Kupp because they didn't want to pay him money. They got rid of Cooper Kupp because they couldn't afford the cap space considering where he was. He was getting paid like he was the number one wide receiver in the league, and he was falling off, whether people want to admit it or not. So that's just the reality of the situation. Same thing with Stafford. It's not that they didn't want to pay Stafford. They didn't want to give him money, and he did take less to go back to the Rams. So I make that very clear. That point needs to be there. but it's that the Rams have kind of a puzzle to put together. It is a conundrum of sorts. You can't just spend all this money because it's not the MLB. It's not the LA Dodgers. You can't just go out and defer contracts going back, 20 years from now. It doesn't work that way. I guess you can, but it's not the money you're deferring. It's the cap. So when you see those void years like the Eagles are doing, you can do that, but that's still going to impact your cap. Whereas if the Rams just had to pay for these players and that's it, there was no cap space, the Rams would probably have the best roster in the league. They would have no issue spending. But unfortunately, and I try to always explain this and try to really give them the benefit of the doubt, there's not really a selfish party here. Kyren believes he deserves to get paid X amount of dollars. We don't know what that is. And the Rams believe that, they're trying to, they think he's a great player. But at this point, negotiations, reason why it doesn't just, you're not going to hand him a blank check. You have to find a way and fit him inside of the cap constraints that you have. Because if you do ruin this and you mess this up, say you gave Kyren a ton of money, but then all of a sudden you look at the cap and you kind of screwed up your cap, it negates all the progress you've made over the last few years since, winning the Super Bowl. It was not supposed to be easy to get out of this cap, but all of a sudden, here you are, right? So that's something to keep in mind. But look, the reality is this. I think Kyren, regardless if he gets a deal done or not, is going to play every single snap he can. He is not trying to sit out. That is the benefit of a player like that. That's it. Is it really that much of a need right now to get him extended? No, because he's not going to hold out. But Kyren sure would like that ability. Now, it works both ways because Kyren, while he would like that stability and feel really good about it, like, all right, I signed the deal, I'm locked in, I have, comfortability here, I feel good. God forbid an injury happened, I'm already under contract, I'm taken care of. True. But on the other hand, if the Rams don't sign Kyren could have a completely insane season, and now that value just went way up. Now, of course, he could get hurt without a contract, and that sucks and everything. But thinking about it without the negativity, Kyren can really make the most of this. We're going to see what ends up happening, but I'm not too worried about it, regardless if it happens or not. Kyren Williams will be the starting running back for the Rams, barring some incredibly crazy fallout. He'll be the starting running back for the Rams in 2025. So then the last thing here is Ramsey. Okay. So while there's nothing new to report on Ramsey, in a way, there is something to report on Ramsey because we haven't really heard this. It sounded more like, yeah, it's going to be tough, but we really want to work it out. And the Rams kind of pulled back a little bit. So that's the interesting thing. McVay actually indicated there may be too many obstacles to make this happen. Quote, usually there are scenarios and situations that you have plans in place prior to executing some of the decisions that have occurred. Definitely don't want to rule anything out because we're always open-minded to onboarding and acquiring quality players and people like him if we're able to do that. But there would have to be some obstacles that are real that are in place. There would be some obstacles that are real that are in place of maybe preventing that from occurring, end quote. So it's interesting. It's almost like the no news. Like I keep seeing that there's nothing new to report. I actually disagree. This is a different Sean McVay. This is a different way of saying it. Now, I don't like to put too much stock into this because Sean McVay will say this, the same things, but word them completely different. It's an art, it's gamesmanship, it's coach speak. We've talked about this a million times. But this felt a little different. I'm not saying that, the Rams can't make a deal done with, they can't get a deal done with Jaylen. But what I am saying is that, this might be, kind of posturing here. This might be them positioning a trade like, hey, okay, like you don't want to work with us, then we won't work with you, and make that clear. Like, yeah, the boundaries, because what this comes off as is the Dolphins are making it hard. And now you put pressure on the Dolphins to make the trade, and then say Jaylen Ramsey gets fed up. And then all of a sudden, he's like, all right, well, only trade me to the Rams. So it's an interesting thing here. It's hard to know which way this is going to go, how it's going to go down. But, one thing's for sure is that the Rams have a Super Bowl caliber team right now, and getting Jaylen Ramsey or not getting Jaylen Ramsey, they're still going to be a very good team. But if they do get him, they will be a better football team. That is for sure. I think Ramsey just so obviously just such a natural fit for this team. So I like the idea of obviously getting him, but I don't think it's a need. And of course, they did bring back Darian Kendrick. So slow your roll there. If you were one of those people that said, wow, they got rid of Darian Kendrick to make room for Jaylen Ramsey, that was never the case. It never felt like that was the case. They had to make room for, they had to make room for DJ Humphries anyway. But no. Typically speaking, I would have agreed, but I also kind of saw earlier in the season when we were talking about, kind of cutting costs here and there, Darian Kendrick's escalator was really high considering he's going to be a backup corner. You can like him all you want or dislike him all you want, but the reality is he is a backup. He's not starting over Akello. He's not starting over Darius, and he's not starting over Kobe Durant. He is going up against Emmanuel Forbes for that kind of next man up role, right? So because he's back, that does create essentially 5 guys on the roster that they feel really good about making the team. That does not mean, and let's get this straight, bringing back Darian Kendrick doesn't mean, oh, Ramsey didn't work out. No. Just like getting rid of Darian Kendrick didn't have anything to do with Jaylen Ramsey. Because there are guys that are currently on the roster that will not make this roster, period. There are corners on this roster right now that will not be on the 53. So they don't need the roster spot, and they wouldn't cut Darian Kendrick for the roster spot. We'll see how the Jaylen Ramsey thing goes down. I think over the course of time, the longer it goes, the better the Rams are in a position to get him. The more desperate this Dolphins team becomes to unload his contract. And honestly, the deal probably gets better because they get more desperate. You got to get rid of him before there is a deadline here. Keep in mind, you have to get rid of him before you cut down the roster, because you don't want to keep him on your 53-man roster and he doesn't want to play there. It's already been established. He does not want to be a Dolphin, and I can't blame him. So we'll see. But obviously, Jair Alexander went to the Ravens, which is, of course, where Chidobe Awuzie went, another guy the Rams were looking at. They were not interested in Jair Alexander, though. The Rams were not interested, but they are interested in Jaylen Ramsey. We'll see how it goes down. Quite honestly, I think it's pretty easy to see what's going on. The Rams view Jaylen Ramsey as a great fit. There's familiarity there. Chris Shula obviously coached him. He was part of the coaching staff when Ramsey was there, and there's just a lot of familiarity. So, and McVay loves him. He loves the Rams, all of that. But McVay isn't really pulling punches here. Okay. He's telling you how it is. It's a long way of saying, a long worded way of saying it, but there are obstacles to overcome. And it doesn't feel super confident right now that they're going to overcome these obstacles to acquire this player. We'll see what happens. Stay tuned. That's it. Appreciate you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed and learned something. But yeah, that's what's going on. Rams are in Maui. We'll find out more info over the course of the next few days. But that is it for now. You guys can check me out on YouTube, Jake Ellenbogen YouTube, and all of social media at JK Bogan. And I'll see you guys soon.